Okay, well here we are. We're on the workbench at the moment, so let me just tell you exactly what I'm talking about. We won't need these because we're not fixing a computer, but we will need one of these, and this is those strips. Now this is a medium ones. You can get ones that are bigger, smaller. They're about $2.50 and give us about quite a few strips there. Now the best thing to do is to get yourself a hacksaw, or you can even nip them with the pliers, and you cut them to get what you need off of them. In this situation, I would probably recommend keeping half. Might seem like a lot, and you might not need that many, but I'll show you why I'm going to use that many. So you're going to need some of that. Let's just understand some cables for a minute. Now this is the Cat5 data cable we see a lot. I've just so you've got multiple cores in here, which you go, oh, that's good, color coordinated. You could do lots with that, make life easy. But as you can see, I've just stripped the brown back here a little, and as you can probably see here, it's just a single strand of copper there. So as a result though, it's quite easy, just a few bends backwards and forwards and it'll snap. It's a pain to strip, and the most important thing is, while it can take up to 55 volts across the line, the current draw is terrible. So what will happen is, if you've got to throw a lot of power to throw a turnout motor or something serious like that, and move a signal even, they can go. Now if you spend a long time laying the stuff around the board and soldering it all in and getting it the way you want it, and then something goes, fault finding can be atrocious just for something quite simple. So really not a good choice. Not bad for an occasional LED in a house if you need to recycle some cable and do that, that's fine. For anything else though, on your main wiring, no. So then we move across. This is the most popular stuff you're going to use. It's quite thin, as you can see by my hand here. Multiple strands of copper here. This is what you're going to use for almost everything. Wiring your turnout motors, lights in the houses, anything else is going to be this stuff. And this is the stuff you will see in your model shop. You're going to get it cheaper at Dick Smith. Probably be looking to cost you about 25 cents a meter, or it's about $10 for a 50 meter roll, something like that. It's better to buy rolls because you're going to use it a lot. Comes in all the colours: purple, green, red, yellow, orange, black, red. So, buying a black, I actually bought black, red and green on a roll, and very happy with it. So that's definitely the best way to go, and you do save a bit buying it in bulk. So that's what you want to use predominantly for everything. Then we're going to come on to the bus bar, which I was talking to you about. Now I have some old offcut here I picked up from a building site actually. Now you can buy this at Bunnings. Remember, you don't need to buy this in a roll. So 15 meg, because this is quite expensive, and this is put my finger back on it, you can see it's actually some quite thick stuff. Now I've just nipped the end off there, so we'll take it off, and you can see there's some quite juicy, serious copper feeds in there. So really, this is going to allow you to do some really terrific stuff as you go along here. So at the end of the day, basically, what this is, I'm just going to quickly wire up and give you an idea of what I would do to build this up. Now, and something else that's worth considering as well is to pop down. I have a lot of these spare. While there might not be a lot for you, and there may be one at home I think lying around, this is an old computer power supply. It's what powers up your computer here, and most of the time this stuff just gets thrown in the bin. It's a bit of a waste. Look, there is nothing really salvageable we can get going in there, but this cord is terrific stuff. And it's quite a thick cable. This is ATX. Now this is probably a 450 watt power supply here. So this actually has to deliver quite a bit of power across to the computer. This was a 20 pin power connector, different colours there. But I'm just going to I'm actually going to snip some of this red and black stuff out, recycle it, and show you why, and when it comes like this, how easy it can be to do some things. So I'll just make a few snips now and cuts and show you what I'm talking about. So, just to recap here, cut some of these red and black cords that used to be connected to this connector here, and snip them out, and cut a few little pieces here, which I'm going to use for loops here, and that's the one we're going to use for a bus bar. Now, when you start nipping all the little ends of your stuff off, you want to obviously do it over a bench, because the last thing you want is, particularly when you're using the thinner things, you might end up with little strands that can go down in carpet, and the last thing you need is to step on one of them later in the future. So I always find an old CD thing that I use when I buy my CDs, and I've got to burn CDs, and in fact if we come over here, here are the tubes of them here. I always find one of them, if you've got one, left upside down makes a particularly excellent trash can on the workbench. Keeps things nice and tidy and looks good. Anyway, so we just cut the cables. Now we're just going to wire it up and show you what I'm talking about. Alright, I know we were doing negative, but I started cutting reds up, so look, it applies to red or black, it really doesn't matter. I'll give you an example with both anyway. So we've got our bus bar cable coming across, and we basically cut it, and we're putting it into one of these strips. So you can imagine you might do this every 1 meter along the layout, or you're basically just going to make a cut junction here wherever there's some activity on the board, a town, buildings, whatever there may be. And then all we're going to do is, because we've tapped into them, we're pretending that this bus bar is a positive one, so that's why we're going to use red, is we're basically going to just daisy chain across a few of these. Now, rather than just putting one in a hole and the next one in a hole, I find you're going to get a better secure connection if you take these two wires together, twist them together, and then insert. And then you'd insert the next, do the next one, and however many you need. So I'm just going to do a couple here, and then go from there. Okay, so we're back now. Now, okay, granted we were going to use the yellow and the green as your negative there. I ended up just having black anyway, so I used black. So we'll just for the moment pretend this one's red. So we come in here, and as we come down onto it, you can basically see all that's happened is we've basically piggybacked from one to the other, to the other, to the other. The same on this negative side, negative, negative, negative. Now, however many you choose to do is up to you. You know, you might only just need to daisy chain over into one here, and that would be enough. I mean, these connectors take a maximum 450 volts, so let's be honest, that's not going to be a limitation. And of course, what you might just find, and of course, like I said, you might snip these up. These are great even if you just snip them up and use one to sort of make a cleaner connection by having one cable coming in and several coming out. For example, let's say we've got here some LEDs here, okay? Now, we could literally just string together all the positive legs of them. And grab this other red one hiding over the corner here. And we could just literally screw them all into their own little socket here. They could all come into that one, all the blacks into one of them. You can get quite a few cables on. It just depends how neat, of course, you're going to get it to look. But the whole idea of this is you could even literally just have another solid cable coming out of here, a red one. We could literally just take a nice big piece of red cord, and say we were to screw it in here, and we were to screw it into there, for example, and then it was to come out, we could feed this red one over to another section of the layout, for example, where there may be some buildings or something, and then put another one of these on and split the cord again. But so using the slightly heavier cable, which we're using here, is fine. So at the end of the day, you'd literally have your bulk of, you'd literally have your, got these cords that get caught up here. It's hard, I don't have a cameraman here. Okay, so just coming back here, you can see what we've done here. Basically taken 3 LEDs, which could effectively be going to a house or something like that, and we've just rerouted them into here. You see I've obviously still left another 2 possible openings here to put other things, and again, you might be using your other cord to wire up some other tricky stuff. But at the end of the day, that's the way you want to do it. It's really nice and clean. You can obviously cut these blocks out to be where you want them to be. They've got the holes to screw them straight to the bottom of the board. And I guess the key thing is here, obviously I didn't use all the rest of that, the key thing is what also makes it quite good is because the little silver screw tops that we come into here that are just a flathead screw that we come down and screw on, what makes it even more easier is that if you are experiencing a bit of an electrical issue, of course you'll just literally be able to grab your multimeter probes and probe straight on from the main feed from here, and then let's say it's on the negative one, which is here. It's hard to do while I'm looking at the camera, so I better not look at it. And put it on, and I'd be able to check my voltage. If I'm getting the correct voltage there, the fault's not there. I go, oh, hang on, yes, that's good, and the rest of the layout's working. It's to do with those LEDs, and I work my way down to where they were. I go, oh, it's here, I'm not getting any voltage. And, you know, it may have just been this wire has come a bit undone or something. So it really does make things really quick and fast to wire that way. And as you can imagine, if this was your layout, let's say this is just one module, it would go on to the next 1 meter down, and you've got all this going on again to the next bit and the next bit. But certainly this grade of cable here is what you do want to be using. You do want to use something quite sort of thick with some decent core in it. You know, if I compare it to the usual stuff I'm telling you about using, you can see the instant difference there. It's quite a thin cable. So definitely that's the best way I would go about tidying it up, and that's really the best way to do it. If there's any questions, you just have to ask me.